Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Okay, Bonnie, you have any questions for me before we begin? Okay. Okay, Bonnie, did you and Eric reside together at your home in Manatee County?
Yes.
Okay, for what length of time did you reside together?
Probably, well, we've been together for 3 years, living together for 3 years. The new home I purchased last year in February.
Okay, and he was living with you since that time in February?
Yes.
Okay. What date did he move out of your home?
I believe it was the 10th of October. It was a Tuesday.
What date did he take the majority of his property from your home?
The 10th.
Okay. Can you tell me what occurred between Eric and yourself at your home on 10/26/17?
I had contacted him previously because he had arranged to get a new roof installed, and I was not privy to any of that information because he had been handling that. He had made the agreement with the company that he was going to give a testimony. So therefore I had emailed him the day before and asked if he could come by so we could discuss the roof, the bills, and he could pick up the rest of his items from the house because it had been a 3-week period.
And was there any discussion about him coming over to help your father move some things from a truck?
No, what happened was when I was with my parents, they were there when he got there, and we had spent the day together. So my dad had actually had a saw on the back of the truck, so he helped lift it out. But that wasn't the reason for him coming over. It was to settle the issues that needed to be settled so we could amicably move on about our lives.
How did that meeting come about? Was it a planned thing?
Yes, I emailed him the day before asking him, and he said that was a good time for him.
Okay, and what happened to make him leave?
I'm still a little confused on that as well. When he was being kind of rude to my folks, and so my folks decided to leave. Once they left, I walked him into the house, and I walked him to the front room. I have 2 front rooms, and I was in the process of trying to get the house staged for sale, but all his property was bagged up in large bags and organized. There was his kids' stuff in the bedroom, and it was taking up pretty much a good portion size of the front room. So I said, before you leave today, I need you to take this stuff with you because I don't want to keep having to have these issues where you keep coming back. Because every time he said he was coming over to fix something, it wasn't. He would either access the home when I was not home and take stuff without my permission, or he would just tell his mom one thing and do another thing.
Once he moved out, how did he gain access to the home?
He has the garage door opener, and he had keys to the house.
Had you ever asked for the keys of the garage door opener to be returned?
I have. The first 3 weeks I spent multiple emails asking for my property back, and even gave him an itemized list as well.
Okay, when he made the decision that he was going to depart the home, at any point did you take a hold of his arm?
No, in fact what I did was I reached out and I tapped and I said, hey, can you please just take your stuff with you? We've never argued, and we're not big argument people, and he has not been characteristic of what he's been the last 3 years. It's been very weird, like a light switch has gone off, and he's not the same person. So I tapped him, and after I showed him the stuff and said, I would like you to take this with you when you leave, I said, then can we go over the stuff, the bills for the house? And as soon as I started to discuss that, he became extremely enraged and said, I don't have to listen to this, I'm leaving. And I didn't even say anything that was offensive or, you know, rude. And he wasn't willing to have a conversation, is the bottom line. But I certainly didn't restrict his movement. I didn't grab him, and I simply was trying to talk to him and say, listen, you're making these very manic, rash decisions, and I think you're going to regret some of these decisions because we've worked so hard on what we've accomplished.
Okay, so walk me through how he leaves the house.
He walks out the garage, I follow him, and then I was talking with him, and he pulled out of the driveway and left tire marks.
Okay, at any point did you prevent him from leaving in his vehicle?
No, he had free movement the entire time. That's what I don't understand in his statement. Because I'm standing at the side of the truck talking to him, and then he pulls out and I walk away.
Okay, at any point did you stand behind the vehicle in the
No.
driveway? In the video that you've seen where he used his camera to tape you, you're standing at the passenger window.
Mm-hmm.
How did the mirror on the passenger side get pushed forward?
Because I was standing there and he started to back up. And then he realized that he was going to run over my foot and stopped. So I had backed up because I was like, this is really not, I don't understand why you're even acting like this.
Why do you think you felt the need to take out the camera and begin recording?
I have no idea.
Okay. Did you make any attempt to open the car doors of his vehicle after he had entered?
No,
Do you know if the doors were locked?
I have no idea.
Has he ever used the camera to videotape you in any type of episode before?
No. But he's done it with his ex-wife.
Do you think he took the camera out because he felt that you wouldn't otherwise move away from the vehicle?
No, I think he took the camera out to try to intimidate me.
Okay. But that's never happened before. This was the first time?
No, we had a counseling session where he was making threats to me too.
Okay. So Eric leaves his house, leaves your house, heading back to the address where his father lives. How much time lapsed between when he left to when you had departed?
I would say about an hour.
Okay, and what did you do during that time period?
I went back inside and I had been trying for the last several weeks to put closure to this whole thing, meaning, you know, getting my password for my cell phone, getting the bills put back in my name, because there were things that he was doing that were threatening me. If I did this, then he was going to charge me with felony charges. So I took the advice of my counselor, and she's like, listen, you just need to sever ties, which I was completely fine with at that point. I didn't want to take him back. I have no desire to even want to be around him. And he just kept having reasons to come by the house. And then I was noticing that more and more stuff was missing. So I figured if I took the bull by the horns and I loaded the stuff up and brought it to him, then there was no more reason for him to come back over. The problem is I had a small car, so I had to make multiple trips. That was my intention of going to make the delivery. So when I pulled up, I unloaded all the stuff, put it on the front porch neatly, and then I knocked on the door, and he opened the door and he said, what do you want? And I said, well, I just want to let you know I dropped off the first load. I would like to get my stuff out of the camper that you have of mine, and I'm going to go back and get the rest of the stuff just to get this done with, because I don't want to keep going through this. And he continued to get upset and said, "You're not getting anything in the camper. I'm considering all of this gifts. You know, good luck, you can't have this." And he's raising his voice, and I said, "I'm not here to argue." And at that point, I was even standing like maybe 1.5 2 feet from the threshold. And he's opening, and he has the door open, and he's talking to me. So then his dad came to the door and basically said, "Let me at her." And that's when the incident happened.
Has Michael Whedon ever been aggressive towards you?
No, in fact, that was the reason I decided to make the delivery, is because Mike and Lisa and I have always had a great relationship. And I felt that they were almost a buffer for any issues that Eric was having, because he is having a significant mental episode that was even diagnosed by a doctor.
Whose doctor is that?
It's Dr. Kennard. We see her together.
What type of doctor is she?
She's a therapist, but she does family, and she also does mental health.
So the two of you were seeing her as a couple?
Yes.
Okay.
Initially, we made the appointments because, being a stepmom type role, we wanted to make sure that we were doing things correctly with the stepkids, and that we were all on the same page.
Okay. Who was seeing that doctor first? Was it Eric?
We went together.
Always went together.
Well, sometimes I went by myself, but in the very beginning, we were going together.
Okay. Bonnie, what items did you place in your car and bring to Eric's house?
There was quite a lot of stuff. I know that he had asked for previously in an email or a text message, he wanted all the Whedon stuff back. And then he had also left a bunch of heirloom type stuff, like his grandfather's photos from when he passed away, and photographs of his kids, and that soda fountain thing. There was a bunch of stuff. I don't remember specifically on that first load, because there was a ton more stuff that he still had at the house.
Okay. Had you ever contacted the Manatee County Sheriff's Office for any prior incidents?
No, not for a prior incident. I actually waited a long time before filing a report of my stolen firearm that I had repeatedly asked for him to return.
Now, on this particular date, did you give any consideration to calling Manatee County Sheriff's Office before loading these items and taking them to Eric?
I did. However, Manatee would have said it's in Sarasota County's jurisdiction, so you have to handle it there.
Okay. Did you reach out to the Sarasota Sheriff's Office at any time prior to this?
I did not. I didn't think I needed to. I'd been at the house a number of times and always was a welcome guest. There was no... Again, this has caught me off guard for this whole incident.
Well, I guess one of my questions would be, did you ever put your foot in the door when you were at Eric's house?
No, I did not.
Now, where do you suppose that came from?
Well, I will tell you this, that while we was waiting for the 911 for the folks to arrive, Eric was telling his dad what to say and to prevent himself from getting arrested, and briefing him on what to write in the statement.
Okay, so how close did you get to the door after you knocked or when Eric had opened the door?
I was still back about 1.5 to 2 feet. And when his dad came out, I backed up even further. So I was never close to the door. It took a while to unload the car. And if they were so concerned, they should have come out and said something at that point. But nothing was said. It was just, you know, this was normal. I'm putting your stuff here. Hey, can I please just get the keys to the camper? I didn't even want access to the house. The camper was parked a long ways away. It's out in the pasture. And that's really all I wanted to get was my stuff out of there.
If Eric's contention is that he left your home in Manatee County to disengage and stop anything from escalating and went to his father's house, if he wanted to stop that argument with you or any confrontation on the front porch, couldn't he simply have closed the door?
he could have closed the door, but the whole time he's been doing things that are not normal. I mean, we were planning our wedding on a Sunday, and Tuesday he moved out while I was at work without saying a word. We never had an argument. We never had any altercation. There was no... That's why this was so surprising to me and caught me off guard, because it was out of nowhere.
When Eric opened the door after you knocked, what did he say to you?
What do you want?
And your response?
I said, I placed your stuff neatly over here. I have more stuff that I'd like to bring by. Can I please get my stuff out of the camper? Because I figured while I was going to get the other stuff, he would just collect my items and then we would just do the switch and it would be done.
Okay, what other discussion took place between you and Eric at the doorway before his father?
That was it. He was raising his voice and getting all upset, and he told me I'm not getting any of my stuff back because he's considering it all gifts. And then that's when his dad came to the door and says, let me at her.
Did Eric say anything to you to the effect of he wanted you to leave or you weren't welcome on the property?
No, the only time that I was told to leave is when Mike put his hands on me and pushed me and told me, get the fuck out of here.
Okay, and when he pushed you, you were how far away from the door?
Well, you see how big that porch is?
It's 12 feet.
Yes, I was more than halfway past the door because I backed up when he stepped out. So I would say maybe, I mean, I don't know specifically, I can only guesstimate, but I was probably about 5 feet from the edge of the porch.
Okay, and I read in your statement where you say that he took open palms
Yes.
and got you between the shoulders and the breast area and hit you with two hands.
Yes.
How did the fall take place? Describe that to me.
Well, he hit me with such force that it knocked me backwards, and as I started to fall backwards, I hit the front of, it's rough wood on the front of the porch, so I hit my legs, and then my head hit the stairway, because there's one stair and then there's concrete, and then my knee hit the stair. So I didn't even realize I had all those bruises till I got home and took my pants off and saw all the bruises on my legs.
Okay, and then after you hit the ground, what did Eric and his father do?
Eric, I remember looking up, okay, well first, I've never had a concussion before, so I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt nauseous, and I couldn't focus my eyes. Like I felt, I don't know, I felt like I was going to pass out. Like that's how awkward, and I've never experienced that before. And then I remember looking up and Mike saying to me, he can't fucking touch you, but I sure as fuck can. So it took me a minute because all I could think of was, oh God, please don't let me throw up right now. And sorry.
Do you need to take a break?
Nope, I'm good. I got up and I went to my car to get my cell phone.
Okay, so you placed the call to 911.
Yes.
At what point did you move your car?
What was weird about it is I was having a hard time processing because I had hit my head. So simple questions were, like I was fighting to try to find the answers to figure out what to say or how to answer the question, which was very strange. But when I was talking to the 911 operator, she said, move your car back. So I got into my car and I moved it back, and I said, but I'm concerned because they'll close the gate and then they won't have any conversation. They're not gonna come out and talk, because Eric was already briefing his dad on, you know, don't answer any questions, don't do this. If they ask you this, say this, do this. He was basically walking them through how to avoid prosecution or anything.
Are you speculating that, or did you hear?
No, I heard him say it as they were standing at the door.
Okay, so after Mike had shoved you and said to you that he can't touch you, but I sure as heck can, He didn't close the door? They didn't go back inside and close the
No,
door?
not initially. They left the door open and they just stood there and looked at me. And then they were talking.
Okay. Do you consider the incident that took place prior to this at your home a domestic violence incident?
No, I don't. I don't even consider it an argument.
Okay. Did it occur to you that this could be potentially dangerous for you to go there?
I felt like it was a very sad moment because I wanted to just end it. Like, enough. You know, I didn't want to have any more altercations or anything with him getting upset. Because of my relationship with his parents that I felt was good, and knowing that they were there, I felt like it was a safe move to bring the items at that time and there would be no conflict. It wasn't impulsive, it was very well thought out, and it was something that it took a while to come to this realization that I needed to kind of take matters and basically stop the cycle of what he was doing.
In retrospect, do you think there could have been a better way to have accomplished that same goal?
No, I really don't. I don't think there was anything I could have done differently.
But your feeling is that if you had contacted the Manatee County Sheriff's Office and told them, hey, I have a civil issue, I have this property here, and I'd like it returned to its rightful owner, you don't think they would have assisted?
No, they would not. When I actually filed the stolen gun report, they told me I had to come in to do that during the day. They were not very helpful on really anything. They do things a lot differently up there. But the biggest thing is, as soon as I mentioned, you know, Sarasota County, they were like, well, then you need to contact Sarasota County.
Okay. When you were speaking to the 911 operator, do you recall what you told her about the fall that you had suffered?
She asked me how far it was, and I think I said 6 feet, but again, I was having a hard time registering the questions and trying to figure out what... I was really in shock, and my concussion, I think, was making an issue. Like, when we talk about the neurobiological parts of the brain, not to get all scientific and stuff, but when you go through trauma, you know, you've seen it as a police officer. Officers are like, well, you know, you're trying to reach for the answers, but they're not coming.
Okay. Do you recall what you told the 911 operator as to who shoved you?
I said Mike Whedon, but I think I also said, but he's with his, I meant to say he was with his son Eric Whedon, who was right there. But I think it came out that they both did, but that wasn't what I meant to say.
Okay. Do you remember saying anything about guns?
They asked if there were guns, and I said, yeah, they do have guns. There's a gun safe right on the front porch. And I know that Eric always has a firearm on him all the time, as well as 2 cell phones.
All right. After being shoved by Mike, did you feel like you were still at risk for future violence?
I did. I really did fear for my safety, but I called 911 because I didn't want this to get turned back around, and I wanted it to be documented as to what occurred.
So if you still felt like your safety was at risk, why didn't you just leave the property and let Sarasota County Sheriff's Office worry about gaining access if they close the gate?
Because at that point, they're friends of Eric, and the investigation was already not done correctly, but I wasn't in the mind frame to get in my car and drive. I couldn't drive at that point. I was still having issues. And again, I had nothing to hide because I did nothing wrong. And I felt like if I left, then they would say, well, why did you leave if it was such a big issue?
Okay.
I stayed on scene because that's what we're supposed to do. I mean, if you have a problem, you stay there and you...
Well, listening to the 911 tape and reading the transcript, you did a very thorough job of providing description and detailed information and asking for a supervisor to respond. So you had the wherewithal to get all that information out.
Well, she asked me several times for the address, and then I gave the plate number just to make sure. But the reason I asked for a supervisor is because it involved myself and someone from his agency.
Okay. So this particular call that you placed to Sarasota through 911, you felt that this rose to a domestic violence incident?
Yes.
Okay, and it was reported as such?
I think they reported it as a disturbance. On scene, they told me it wasn't domestic.
Okay. Do you remember telling the 911 call taker that you didn't need an ambulance? I had scrapes on my hands from falling. I hit my head. I'm sure I'll be okay. It knocked the wind out of me mostly.
I probably said that, but I really didn't feel like I needed an ambulance at that time, only because what are they going to treat me for? Bruises?
Well, no. In your own words, you said that you were in a concussed state. You thought you were near vomiting, and
I was,
you weren't
but
thinking clearly.
Yeah, but I also know that ambulances are expensive, and I don't have the extra money right now to be paying for an ambulance.
Okay. All right, Bonnie, going to move a little bit forward to when the first responders get there. The ambulance gets to you first?
Yes.
And which officers arrived first, second, third? Do
I
you
have
recall?
no idea.
Okay, do you know which officer you dealt with primarily?
I have no idea.
Okay. Do you remember identifying yourself to the deputy that did speak to you?
The deputy that spoke to me asked me for my ID. I went in and got my ID, gave him my Florida driver's license. He looked at the address and he goes, 1410 Tamiami Trail, and I said, yeah, it's my department.
Okay, did he recognize that as the police department?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did you produce any police ID?
No.
Did you tell him that you were a police officer?
No, one of the officers I used to work with in the jail who knows I'm a cop.
And which officer was that?
I think it was the big one, Robinson.
Robertson?
Robert, yeah.
Okay. Worked with him at the jail?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what would you describe your demeanor when the first responders arrived?
I was trying to be calm, but I was a total wreck inside. I was upset, but I just felt I was a victim. I was a true victim, and I handled it with professionalism, and I handled it with being calm and having, demeanor. And
Okay, do you remember requesting or asking to pursue charges?
I did. They said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to pursue charges for battery.
Okay. And when you said that, they provided you a witness statement form to fill out?
They said, hang on, we'll get back with you. Sorry.
Problem.
We'll get back with you. And then they all went inside to speak to Eric and Mike.
When you say they all, who went inside?
All the officers at one point were inside with them. Then one of them came back out and said, well, okay, do you want to fill out a statement? And I said, of course.
Okay, and that deputy is Deputy Luce?
I don't know his name.
It's Deputy Luce, Luce. Okay, so he has you fill out a witness statement for the battery charge against Michael Wheaton.
Yes.
Okay. At what point does a waiver of prosecution come up?
One of the deputies, I don't know which one it was, came out and said, if you charge for battery, we're going to charge you for burglary. And I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about right now. And they're like, well, you know, they're alleging that you pushed the door and put your foot in the door. And I said, I didn't, and you can look at my boots and even see that the evidence doesn't support that statement. And they basically said, well, if you press battery charges, we're going to press burglary charges. So I felt like I was being forced to sign the waiver of prosecution under duress.
You don't recall which deputy had told you that?
No,
Could it have been Sergeant Darby?
I have no idea.
How many deputies actually arrived?
I think there were 3. 2 were regular, and I guess one of them was the sergeant, but
Okay. So no more than 3 that you recall?
there might have been another one, but he didn't stay and left, but I don't know. I don't recall.
Bonnie, do you feel that you being a police officer had any impact on the way the responding deputies handled the call?
Absolutely not. I believe that I handled it the way it should have been handled, and I do feel like I was discriminated against because I am law enforcement, and they weren't going to listen to me no matter what I said. I feel like because they were part of his agency and they were kind of forcing me to withdraw my complaint, they were just trying to fix it and move on.
Okay, if you felt that you were being coerced into filling out this waiver of prosecution, why didn't you ask for a watch commander?
I did ask for a watch commander.
And what was told to you?
He's not available.
And you accepted that answer?
No, what happened was after I signed the waiver of prosecution under duress, then they gave me the trespass warning, and I was because I wanted to leave, I didn't want to stay. And they said, well, do you want to get your stuff now? And I said, no, I just want to leave. I don't even want to be here at this point. Because I was spent and sad and just drained as to everything I had gone through. And I felt like I was being re-victimized. So I left there and I called my parents, and my parents met me downtown at the fruit bill office, where we waited for a little while, and the watch commander finally showed up.
And what was that conversation about?
We explained how the call was handled and our concerns regarding not separating the witnesses and letting them say things that didn't go with the evidence. And he called my mom honey and sweetie and was kind of rude to both my parents. And at that point, my dad just looked at me and said, it's not worth it, let's just go.
Okay, did you withdraw your waiver of prosecution at that point?
No, I didn't do anything at that point. I just basically left.
Okay, let's go back a little bit to the written statement. What happened to the written statement that you filled out?
When they came out and told me they were going to charge me with burglary, I asked to see my statement again because I felt like there were other pieces that needed to be put into it. The deputy told me no, so I reached over and I took it off the clipboard.
Where was the clipboard?
It was on the hood of my car.
Okay, it wasn't in the deputy's hands at that point?
No, it was on the hood of the car because I went to reach for it and grab it, and then he reaches at the same time and tries to grab it. But again, after he told me I couldn't have my statement back, I was, sort of, I felt like I was being set up. And again, being re-victimized because I was battered, I had physical injuries. They documented even in the report that I was covered in dirt and that there were scrapes and injuries. And even in regardless of being a police officer, I'm a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody deserves to get their hands put on them at any time. Especially because they're way bigger than I am. They were not scared. I felt like I was set up, and I felt like it didn't matter what I said. They weren't going to listen.
Do you think if you had...
Do you need to take a break?
I'm just going to drink water.
Okay.
Bonnie, do you think if you had waited for a watch commander to be free, to come out to the scene, it would have ended any differently?
I have no idea, probably not. The watch commander supported his group. He's been there 30 years, and he had already gotten the story by the way the deputies had talked to him, and his resolution was, well, charge her with battery, and then charge her with burglary, charge him with battery, and then just send it to the state to make the decision. But my issue was that I didn't burglarize anything. I didn't go there with the intent to commit any crime. And I certainly never made entry into the house. I never asked to. I never wanted to. So, you know, again, I'm just trying to get all this behind me and get him to stop coming to the house and take his stuff and just be done. And he wouldn't take it. It was almost like it was a reason to keep control and to keep coming back.
Didn't you change the locks and the garage door opener at some point?
After this incident, I did, yes.
Okay, how soon after this incident?
It was probably, I want to say like a Wednesday. Because I had to come up with the money to get the new garage door opener. And then I also, which I sold a whole bunch of stuff on Craigslist or whatever, to get the money for it. And then I had to find the right lock that would fit the front door, which took me 8 hours to try to install.
Okay. Bonnie, back to the statement that was on the deputy's clipboard. Do you feel that it was appropriate for you to reach over and remove that statement from his clipboard?
Yes, especially after I asked him for it back.
Okay.
And he told me no.
Did you tell him that the reason why you wanted to review it was maybe to add things to it?
No, I didn't, but prior to that, I had tried to explain things and he wasn't listening. So my experience was that he wasn't still listening.
Do they do things similar up there that we do here, where we swear people in and we ask them, is everything in the statement the truth, and is there anything you wish to change, alter, or delete?
No, they didn't do any of that.
Okay.
In fact, when I filed the theft report for the gun in Manatee County, Captain Jernigan asked me, he's like, well, why didn't you just file the charges yourself? I said, I'm the victim. I can't, and it's in another county. So there just seems to be a lot of differences on how they do things versus how we do things.
That's true. I learned some of that when I was speaking to these guys. They do things a little different there.
But they also kept changing directions even after the incident. They never mentioned burglary again. Then they started talking about the stand your ground defense. So I felt like it was a moving target and that they were just trying to CYA.
Okay. Do you remember who came out and offered you the waiver of prosecution form in lieu of charges?
No.
Okay. Did you add any verbiage, any writing on the formatted waiver document?
I did.
Okay. Do you recall what you wrote?
I wrote something to the effect of, I am signing this only because I am being threatened with bogus charges, but I should have wrote under duress, but I couldn't think of the word at the time. And again, they told me if you press charges on him for this, we're going to charge you for this. So it was almost like they were trying to negotiate, and again, in retrospect, I should have just went forward with it because I could disprove that I wasn't there for burglary. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong. I did everything the way I should have done it, and I was very calm and extremely professional on the whole thing. And the way I was treated, I really feel re-victimized, and it's occurred over and over and over and over. And yet, I'm being held to an IA, but yet Eric and his participation has gotten nothing.
Okay. Bonnie, do you know who the highest authority was that was working that day? Was it the watch commander?
I think so.
Okay. You know as well as I do here in our agency, if someone is not satisfied at the road level, they can ask for a watch commander. If they're not satisfied with that, there's always someone further up on that chain.
Correct.
Did you give any thought or consideration to requesting someone else?
I waited a few weeks, and they were moving between buildings. They were moving from Fruitville down to Cattle Ridge. So I couldn't get a hold of Lieutenant Mercurio, who is in charge of the internal affairs investigations, because I wanted to get a formal complaint to fill out and write my concerns. I was instead met by Captain Walsh, who is one of Eric's friends, who pulled me into a room, and with Brian Gregory, who's also his friend, his lieutenant, and wanted to know what I wanted. And I said, well, I have some concerns on how this call was handled, and I think there's some things that you need to be made aware of. One of the things is I just filed a theft report regarding the handgun that's registered to me that has not been returned, and it's now 3 months later. And my concern was, if his mental capacity, if he does something with it, it's going to come back to me because it's my firearm, and it's a serious thing. So he goes, well, I don't want to get into all that. He goes, I'll just talk to Mercurio and I'll have him reach out to you. And kind of brushed me off, and I said, okay. And I said, just so you know, when I was walking in here to try to make contact, Eric was walking out, and I actually walked around because we made eye contact and I didn't want to go anywhere near him. And as Eric was walking out, he lifted his shirt, unholstered his firearm, and made a threatening look at me like he was going to pull his gun on me. And I was in civilian clothes. I had my computer in one hand and my car keys in another, and I was not even a threat, not even close to him. And so when I mentioned that to Captain Walsh, he said, well, we have cameras, we can review that. But wait, there might be trees in the way. So they automatically started to try to downplay his participation and I would say cover what was really going on.
Have the issues that you raised with the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office been resolved?
No, they have not. In fact, when Mercurio called me, he then referred me to Captain Jernigan, who is the Road Patrol Commander. When I spoke with Captain Jernigan, I wrote a statement, which I gave you a copy of exactly what happened. And he told me, no, I need you to narrow those confines just to this incident, because when we take a complaint, we address every issue that somebody has. We don't just say, no, you can only talk about this, don't talk about this, don't talk about this, you know. And that's what he did. So then I asked him for a couple policies, and by then Eric had shut off all my lines of communication, so I had no way of communicating. So I had to call Mercurio back to get Jernigan's email so I could email him the information that he had requested. And then I asked him for copies of their SOPs on how to handle domestics and how they do their investigations and their pre-investigations. And he said, well, that's a public records request, which is a violation of the Sunshine Law. But anyway, I requested it, and I told him I'd pay for it, and never received it. So at a certain point where I was kind of being very patient and waiting, I mean, like weeks went by, finally I emailed Captain Jernigan back, and I explained that I had retained Valerie, and that from here on out, if he would just have the discussion with her, then we, take me out of it, because I wasn't getting anywhere, and they were treating me like complete and utter. They didn't treat, like, I'm a citizen, and I didn't act on behalf as a law enforcement officer. I acted as a citizen with concerns.
Well, I understand that. Unfortunately with this job, we're thought of as being on duty 24 hours a day.
Correct.
So we're expected to always have that thinking cap on.
Which is what I had on when I did everything that I did. Up to and including, I sent certified mailings for an eviction, first and foremost, because he had been signing documents saying that he was the owner of the house, and he's not. I'm the sole owner of the house. And he was doing some other things that are not on the up and up. But with that being said, when I sent him the certified mail to pick up his abandoned property, which was exactly laid out in the state statute, and he didn't come to get it, I even offered to drop it off at the neighbor's house and he can go get it. I gave him several alternatives and he never responded to any of it. So I sent an email the day before. I said I will be there between 3:30 and 4:30 to drop off your stuff. I never asked to see him. I never asked to have any contact with him. I just wanted to be done with it. And then there was also a box of property that is sheriff's office property that includes hard drives that contain evidence for cases, some duty belts, and a dive suit that is very, very, very expensive. So my concern was when I dropped it off, I asked for a property receipt because I didn't want them to say that I took something or stole something, or, I mean, the way that this has all been going down, I was trying to be on par and do it the right way every step of the way and professionally. And then I was told that, yeah, you're not getting a property receipt. And so I said, well, is there any chance I could speak to Captain Jernigan, because this is Sarasota County property? And the deputy was rude and said, absolutely not, you're not getting any of that. Then she said that she talked to him and he said no. Well, when I got home, there was an email from him asking for my number because it had been disconnected. And I wrote back, I go, I was just in the lobby at the same time that you sent this email. I would have been happy to talk to you. And that's when I hired her at that point, because the stuff that was going on was not good.
Did you leave the property that day?
I left Eric's property, but I kept the Sarasota County property. At this point, it's in her possession in her office, so they can come and inventory it there.
It's nice to hear the pieces come together when I only see emails and different people writing different things. And
I can assure you that I kept good records of everything, and I did it the right way. I sent a certified mail to his work and the same copy to his house, because I knew he wouldn't sign for it at his house, but at least, because usually you're not home, you're at work during the day. But I needed him to be aware that, hey, this is the date that you need to pick this up by, or it could be thrown away. But in lieu of throwing away and being nasty and unkind and vindictive, I did the right thing and I returned the stuff. He still has not returned any of my stuff. He still hasn't given me back my email access, and I'm doing the best I can.
okay. Bonnie, just one last thing, going back to the statement and the removing it from the deputy's clipboard. If someone had done that to you in your capacity as an officer here, how would that have made you feel?
Honestly, it's been done to me before, and they're right. It's their statement. If they want to withdraw it, that's completely up to them. If they say, hey, can I get that back? Sure, no problem, here you go. But when you're told no, and then they're trying to control the situation and trying to bend it into something that it's not, that's where I got concerned. So I felt at that point the right course of action was to retrieve it and then just leave and get out of there. I didn't even want to be there anymore.
Okay.
And I asked, I said, may I leave? And they said, no, you have to wait. And I said, okay. So I waited.
Have you had any contact with anyone at the sheriff's office above Captain Jernigan, or is it Captain Walsh as well? Is he a captain as well?
Yeah, Captain Walsh. No, in fact, after the whole Jernigan thing, and when I told him that I had hired her, the next thing that happened is, what's his name, the second in command? Hoffman sends an email, and I had never even talked to him, and even the facts in his email were incorrect.
Who did he send an email to?
To Jason. And it was almost like a fear factor, because they like to rule with fear, and people never question, and you just do what you're told. I didn't do anything wrong. I was a victim, and I should have been treated better. I wasn't even given victims' rights information. I had injuries. It was documented in the report that he pushed me. It was documented that I had injuries, and they still did nothing.
Okay. So at this point, both waivers of prosecution stand, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
As far as I know. I don't know what they're doing on their end, because they
Okay.
do things differently, but...
All right, Bonnie. Is everything you told me in the statement the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Is there anything that you want to add, change, or delete in this statement?
I will tell you that I don't think there was anything I could have done differently. Because it's a very sad thing that I've been through. I've learned a lot of lessons. But I think in the past, my old self would have been like, and I was very composed, I was very calm, and I did the right thing with what I was given, because even when I gave him the opportunity to come and remedy and fix and do what he needed to do, he just didn't. And I can't keep having him come back to the house. I'm afraid. Even now, I remember him making comments about Eric's ex-wife and how they were going to get a hitman for her, and I have to buy cameras for my house because I'm out there by myself. Reading his statement about the target, I have photos of them shooting in the front yard with kids not even wearing safety glasses or hearing protection, or, and he's beaten people up to a pulp before, to where they ended up in the hospital. He's got anger issues. And I respect that he wants to defend his son, but I was no threat at any time at all. And for them to portray that they were so scared. Eric's a trained police officer. He's over 6 foot. They weigh a lot, and they're like Viking size. So, I just want, if they were so scared, why didn't they call 911?
Well, I think their contention was that they saw you reach for your phone. The assumption was that you were calling 911.
But I was far enough away from the door that it wasn't an issue, and he was the one that was yelling. And all I did was ask for my stuff back and the keys to the camper. That was it. There was no reason for him to react like that, and there was no reason for him to even be upset. He wanted to leave, he wanted to sever the relationship. I'm giving you what you're asking for, and now you're getting mad? Didn't make any sense. It's a control thing.
Okay. Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, Bonnie, this will end the statement, and it is 2:06 p.m.
County, this is Sheriff of the County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles. If you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago. And so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me, and I'm sick of it. So I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.